Snap Inc.'s revenue for the fourth quarter of 2017 beat Wall Street's expectations for the first time since the company went public last year. It added 8.9 million daily active users to reach 187 million. But how did the idea for disappearing photos grow into a multi-billion-dollar company, you may ask? Well, How to Turn Down $1 Billion, the Snapchat story, comes out February 13th. It follows the app's founders from the birth of Snapchat at Stanford University to the company's present form. And Billy Gallagher is the author of that book. He joins me now to talk about this because you had the unique experience of being in the same frat as Snapchat's co-founder. How and where did Snapchat begin and why?
Snapchat began at Stanford. It was a really simple idea for only iPhones sharing disappearing photos. And it's now grown into obviously way more than that.
Now, you granted Evan Spiegel granted you an interview. He's famously secretive about his company and what it's up to. And he did this when you were a writer at TechCrunch, and he was worried about coverage of Snapchat. So just give us some insight into his mind and into the company's origins, considering the battles that he's had to kind of go through since then.
Yeah, so this is back May of 2012, really early days for Snapchat, way before he was quite as secretive as he is now. And we were talking, and they just raised seed funding. So he was talking about really early days of Snapchat and this idea that he had about why is everything on the internet permanent? Why is everything written in ink? Won't people act in a different way if they know the photos aren't permanent?
And it was this concept of, look, we take so many pictures on a regular basis, but how many of us actually look back at the 20, 50 pictures from a vacation? So the idea was pictures that could disappear and there's no trail, right?
And the idea was that Facebook had gotten stale and boring and old, and that when your parents were all on Facebook, when you posted these perfect photos, it was just so different than real life. And so the idea was, can we get back to something that's more like the real world if we delete everything?
But then it got very close to the real world because folks were doing what with this feature where you could have pictures disappear? It got a reputation for being a sexting app.
Sure, and part of that is granted. I mean, anything on the internet or on people's phones could be used for sexting, and is, but it wasn't purely used for sexting. I think it got this reputation that it was only a sexting app, in large part because people in the media and Wall Street and in tech, the proverbial adults, weren't using it because they didn't understand the use case.
So do you feel that he made an active effort to change what this app could be used as and really build it to what it's become? That was a conscious decision to move beyond that reputation.
Absolutely. There was a conscious decision. You can see Evan's thought evolve throughout the book, throughout the summers of 2012 and 13 as he sees this can be much, much more than this limited use case. You can see the way that young people are using this app. They're using it in a much different way, in a much broader way than that.
Now, he turned down an acquisition offer from Facebook valued at $3 billion. You couldn't call your book turning down $3 billion. You like how $1 billion sounds. But why did he do that? He was 23 years old. Anyone else in Silicon Valley would jump at this type of offer. So why did he turn that down? What does that tell us about him?
Yeah. He's a really strong-headed founder. He and co-founder Bobby Murphy control the entire company, both structurally with the actual stock, but also with the culture and the leadership of the company. And they really believe this company is worth more than $3 billion. I know it sounds insane to all of us, but they knew they were on something really special here and knew they had much more to grow this business into.
So what is that value? Because when many of us use applications, we just press OK on the terms and conditions without really reading them. But many apps, including Facebook's, have kind of fine print which says, well, we can listen to your microphone, we can track you no matter where you go. Maybe we save every single image you have and we scan it and we put it through algorithms and those types of things. What is the real value Snapchat is getting from its users rather than the other way around?
The value is that it's capturing your attention, and it's capturing the attention of a demographic, young people, that are really hard to capture. So even if you're advertising on TV on this show right now, a lot of young people are just staring down at their phones, distracted, looking at probably Snapchat or Instagram. And so they have this really hard to reach demographic, and they can sell advertising to them.
And do you, as far as the Facebook approach has been, okay, we'll pay $3 billion for you or we'll crush you. And now Facebook has its own kind of version of what Snapchat does through its acquisition of Instagram Stories. So where is that battle right now between Snapchat's users compared to who's on Instagram telling stories?
Yeah, that's the main battlefront right now is Instagram Stories versus Snapchat Stories. So Facebook finally got smart and stopped trying to just copy Snapchat's entire app and took the Instagram Stories idea the Snapchat Stories idea and port it over to its best product, Instagram, and realized that it could Facebook could stunt Snapchat's growth by creating this thing, Instagram Stories, that's very similar to Snapchat Stories.
Now, in order to put this book together, I read that you gathered more than 200 interviews, more than 450 pages of source notes. Take us through the process of writing this book and creating a narrative that you are trying to keep as close to the truth.
Yeah, it was crazy. I literally had 450 pages out on a dining room table, kind of rearranging things, seeing where they'd fit, sadly leaving things on the cutting room floor, even though I liked them, to see what would craft the best narrative. And so it was a lot of research. It was a lot of talking to people, talking to sources, finding out which threads to pull at, and eventually crafting into what's the most interesting narrative arc.
Billy Gallagher, great to chat with you about your new book.
Thanks for having me.